Now let me tell y'all something. I done seen success, I done seen struggle, I done been broke, and I done been blessed. But I never felt nothing like what I felt when I walked through the holy cities of Mecca and Madinah. See, this ain't about money or fame or none of that. This is about truth. The kind of truth that don't just change your mind, it changes your soul. And when that kind of truth hits you, man, you can't walk away the same. It all started with an invitation. I was sitting one morning, minding my business, thinking about life, the grind, the purpose, the reason behind it all. I had climbed so many mountains, but that day I realized I wasn't even sure what mountain I was on. A good friend of mine walked in and said, "Have you ever been to Mecca?" I laughed and said, "Man, I've been to a lot of places, but not there." He smiled and said, "Then maybe it's time you see what money can't buy." That line hit me deep, because in this world we chase what shines, but sometimes the real treasure don't shine, it glows. So I said, "All right, let's go." Not for no cameras, not for no attention, just because something inside me whispered, "You need to see this." On that flight to Saudi Arabia, I couldn't sleep. I just kept thinking about everything. Man, I've met a lot of people in my life, celebrities, billionaires, preachers, hustlers, everybody running after something. But I started realizing peace ain't something you chase. Peace is something you find when you finally stop running. I looked out that airplane window way up in the clouds and I said quietly, "God, I don't know what I'm about to see, but I'm ready. I'm open." When the plane started descending toward Jeddah, I felt it, that calm. Not fear, not nerves, peace. And let me tell you something, when a man like me who's lived in noise all his life finally feels peace, you remember that moment forever. When I stepped foot in Mecca, I could feel it. The air was heavy, but not in a bad way. It was like the whole place was breathing with you. Every breath felt sacred. And then I saw it, people from every corner of the world. White, black, brown, rich, poor, all dressed the same, all walking the same direction. No titles, no fame, no VIPs, just souls. I looked around and thought, ain't nobody here care who I am. No one asking for pictures, no one chasing clout. And for the first time in a long time, that felt right. Then I laid eyes on the Kaaba. Man, I had seen it in pictures all my life, but standing there in front of it, that's different. It felt like my soul had been trying to find this place since before I was even born. My eyes filled up with tears, not sadness, just realization. Because when truth finally finds you, pride don't stand a chance. I whispered, "God, I'm here. Do whatever you gotta do in me." They say Mecca is a mirror, and they're right. Because everywhere I looked, I saw my reflection in people I'd never met. Doctors walking beside farmers, billionaires beside janitors, all moving together. No difference, no status, just humans standing equal before their creator. And that's when it hit me. Humility ain't weakness. It's strength under control. I found myself helping an old man who stumbled, sharing my water with strangers, listening to prayers whispered by people who'd come halfway across the world just to say one word: forgiveness. That night I couldn't stop thinking about Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, how a man born an orphan could teach the world so much: truth, compassion, patience. I thought, we study leadership books every day, but that man wrote the greatest one just by the way he lived. And as I closed my eyes, I said to myself, if this is what real success looks like, I've been looking in the wrong direction my whole life. After my time in Mecca, I made my way to Medina, the city of peace. Now listen, if Mecca was power, Medina was love. The air felt soft, the people gentle, and the spirit of that place calm like a whisper from God himself. When I walked toward the Prophet's mosque, I didn't say a word, didn't even take a picture, because some things ain't meant to be captured, they're meant to be felt. I saw people crying, not out of pain, but out of gratitude. And I thought, man, I've been to award shows, red carpets, luxury hotels, but I ain't never seen peace like this. When I finally stood in front of that mosque, I could feel the history, the mercy, the love that this city carried. I thought about the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, how he walked these same streets with patience, humility, and strength. And I said to myself, that's real leadership, that's real manhood, to carry love even for those who wronged you. The next day I visited a little museum near the Prophet's mosque. They had a few simple items: a cup, a cloak, a pair of sandals like the Prophet wore. I stood there in silence. This man changed the whole world, and he didn't own nothing. And I laughed quietly, not at him, but at myself. Because here we are losing sleep over watches, cars, and labels. Meanwhile, the most influential man in history lived with less and gave more. That moment hit me hard. I realized, maybe blessings ain't what you hold. Maybe blessings are what you share. So I said to myself, I don't need more stuff. I just need to use what God already gave me. Simplicity ain't about having less, it's about wanting less. And in that moment I saw how loud life had gotten, and how peace lives in the quiet. That night I couldn't sleep. I sat by my window, staring out at the lights of Medina, quiet, still, peaceful. And I started thinking about everything I'd been through. The fame, the grind, the mistakes, the lessons, all of it. And I said, God, I done told a lot of jokes in my life, but tonight I'm not talking. I'm listening. I started crying. Not out of sadness, but out of gratitude. I was thanking him for the ones I already had, my family, my breath, my second chances. I thought about the prophet, how he lost so much, was rejected, hurt, but never gave up. And I realized, real success ain't about applause, it's about endurance. It's about staying kind when life ain't fair, and faithful when nothing makes sense. Before dawn I woke up to a sound that'll stay with me forever, the Adhan. The call to prayer echoed through the whole city. Man, I can't even explain it. It wasn't just sound, it was spirit. I stood there, eyes closed, just listening. And I felt something deep in my chest, like my soul was humming with it. I said softly, Lord, I ain't Muslim, but I feel you in this. I looked out the window and saw people walking calmly toward the mosque. No rush, no noise. And I thought, they get up before the sun, not for money, not for fame, but for faith. It hit me. Peace don't come from control. It comes from surrender. And that morning I realized, I'd spent my whole life trying to run my own plan. But maybe peace was never about making more moves. Maybe it was about learning how to be still. When I got back home, man, everything looked the same, but I wasn't. My house, my cars, my schedule, all that stayed put. But my heart, it had shifted. You ever come back from a trip, and it feels like your soul's still somewhere else? That was me. I'd turn on the TV and it all felt loud. I'd scroll through my phone and it all felt empty. Because once you've stood in a place where people bow together, cry together, and thank God together, you can't unsee that. I realized something powerful. Peace ain't found in changing your location. It's found in changing your perspective. See, I didn't leave Mecca and Medina with souvenirs. I left with silence, and that silence taught me to hear God clearer. A few weeks later, I was at the airport, waiting on a flight. A young man came up to me, recognized me, and said, Mr. Harvey, I saw your pictures in Mecca. You Muslim now? I smiled and said, Nah, son, I'm not Muslim, but I learned something from He said, what's that? And I told him, I learned that faith ain't got no color, no language, no nationality. Faith is universal. Because when I was there, I saw black, white, Arab, Asian, every face you can think of, all bowing to one God. And not one of them was worried about status, money, or fame, just faith. And I told him, if the world could pray the way they do, together shoulder to shoulder, we wouldn't be fighting the way we are. That's when I realized, unity ain't a dream, it's a discipline. You gotta choose peace the same way you choose to fight, intentionally. One evening, I was sitting on my porch, watching the sunset, and I just started talking to God like he was right there in the chair next to me. I said, Lord, I done chased money, chased success, chased applause, but now I just want to chase peace. Because peace is the real luxury. I thought about the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him again, how he always thanked God, even when he had nothing. And I said, that's it right there, gratitude. So I made a promise, that every night, before I close my eyes, I'll thank God for 3 things, no matter how my day went. Because gratitude don't change your situation, it changes you. Let me tell you something before we close. When I went on that journey, I thought I was going to learn about Islam, but what I found was humanity. The Prophet Muhammad taught me through his life that real greatness ain't in power, it's in compassion. It ain't in how many people serve you, it's in how many people you serve. He showed me that success without humility is just noise, and love without sacrifice is just talk. So I came back with one truth in my heart. If you want to live right, live like him. Be kind when it's hard. Forgive when it's unfair. Give when nobody's watching. And trust God when the plan don't make sense. That's faith. That's peace. That's purpose. And I ain't ever gonna forget it. See, I didn't just travel to another country. I traveled to another level. And I learned peace don't come when life gets easy. It comes when your heart learns to surrender.